Thank you. So, Mr. Clerk, could you go ahead and introduce the translation services for the meeting?
Members of the public, the live interpretation of this entire meeting will be provided in Spanish. To access live interpretation services, please click the interpretation globe icon in your Zoom meeting webinar controls and select the Spanish language. At this time, I would like my colleague from the Spanish interpreter to provide instructions in Spanish. Kimberly Larios or Kelly? Kimberly, can you hear us? Look, give me 1 second. Let me please get out of the room and then I'll put you back in. Give me 1 second. But Kimberly,
yeah, sorry, we hear you. We just couldn't speak to you because we were in the other channel. I will go ahead and repeat the instructions in Spanish. Muy buenas tardes a todos. Les queremos notificar que la reunión de hoy va a estar transmitida con interpretación en vivo por medio de Zoom. Para poder acceder a esta interpretación en el idioma de español, usted puede seleccionar en la barra de herramientas en la parte inferior de su pantalla el icono que tiene forma de un globo, seleccionar interpretación y allí puede seleccionar el idioma español. Muchas gracias. Thank you, Suki.
Thank you. Please proceed, Chair.
Thank you. All right, welcome to the November meeting of the Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Commissions. Mr. Clerk, just want to note that we had 2 more current members of the commission join, Commissioners Nori and Commissioner Nori. So I think with that, we'll wait to take roll call until we swear in our 3 new commissioners. So Judge Atizadi, we're ready for you. We're ready to bring on our 3 new commissioners who are all present here in the room.
Well, wonderful. It's such an honor and a privilege to do this. Let me just inquire, do the 3 new commissioners have a copy of their oath in front of them? If you don't worry about it. That just means I'm going to read line by line so that you can repeat after me. Otherwise, I could do it differently if you had the oath in front of you.
They do not have the oath in front of them.
Okay, no worries. So could each of you kindly raise your right hand and state your name?
You can do it.
Your name. Tiffany Uhila Alto.
Steve Green.
Very well. Now I want you to repeat after me, and I'm going to keep the sentences short, okay? Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend.
Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend
The Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California
the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance
That I will true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California.
to the Constitution of the United States, to the Constitution of the State of California.
That I will take this obligation freely
That I will take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
without mental reservation or purpose of evasion. Sorry.
That's right, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
Without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
And that I will well and faithfully
And that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties that I am about to enter.
discharge the duties that I'm about to enter.
Congratulations to each of you. I will sign these oaths and forward them to, I think, probation. So thank you so much. Congratulations.
Your Honor, do you also have the oath of confidentiality in front of you?
You know, I do not. Thank you for, I should have that in front of me, huh? Let's see if I have it in my phone.
You want to share your screen?
If you have it, let me just, I have the general oath in my phone, but I don't think I have the oath of confidentiality. Let me just look. Yes, I do not have that.
Your screen, so you go up there, Karen, and they can read it.
Are you in the Zoom?
No, but I can send it to somebody who's in.
I'm not in the Zoom.
I'm in the Zoom.
Maybe,
Can I send it by a
Yes.
message?
If you have iPhone, yes.
Yeah.
You got it? Or you want me to do it? I actually have it.
If you have it, then that's, I just sent it to you.
Okay. Stand by. We're going to share the oath of confidentiality on the screen.
Okay, sounds good.
And I think it's like page
It is.
4 or something like that.
Yep, it's the second page.
You go to the second page.
Can you make that bigger?
Yeah, we're gonna
Okay,
blow it up.
thank you.
Hit the
There we go, let me make it.
yeah, and then go to the second page.
Okay. Can you see
How's that?
that better? I can scroll down as we go. Is that sufficient?
Yeah, is the last line delinquency prevention? Oh, there you go. Okay. As long as it's all there, is it all there?
It's just the
It's all
second
there.
paragraph there.
Okay, all
So-
right. Okay, so let me just read the top portion before I'm going to ask the 3 new commissioners to kindly raise their right hands. And if you wouldn't mind just scrolling down a bit so I can read the top portion. Thank you. The intent of this oath of confidentiality is to ensure all commissioners are aware of their responsibilities to maintain the confidentiality of juveniles' protected information. Each commissioner must sign an oath of confidentiality. So I'm about to read this to you, and then I'm sure someone will forward me the oaths, I presume. So does everybody have their hand raised? The 3 commissioners?
I do.
Yes.
Okay, great. So repeat after me. Recognizing that all juvenile case files and court matters are strictly confidential under the California Welfare and Institutions Code, Section 827.
Recognizing that all juvenile case files and court matters are strictly confidential under California Welfare Institutions Code, Section 827.
Please state your name. I
Tiffany,
as a member of the San Mateo County Juvenile Justice Commission, swear or affirm that I will keep potentially identifying youth information, case file records, cases observed, and other protected information confidential.
as a member of the San Mateo County Juvenile Justice Commission, swear or affirm that I will keep potentially identifying youth information, case file records, cases observed, and other protected information confidential.
In addition, I agree to use the authority of the commission only in the interest of the youth of the county and to use discretion, diligence, and integrity in conducting the business of the commission consistent with its statutory purpose of inquiring into the administration of the juvenile court law.
In addition, I
agree to use the authority of the commission only in the interest of the youth of the county and to use discretion, diligence, and integrity in conducting the business of the commission consistent with its statutory purpose of inquiring into the administration of juvenile court law.
I understand this oath of confidentiality and have read and understood the operating policies of the San Mateo County Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Commissions.
I understand this oath of confidentiality and have read and understood the operating policies of the San Mateo County Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Commissions.
Very well. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Yes.
All right. Congratulations, Steve, Tiffany, and Richie.
Said one thing, Your Honor, you mentioned you would like to have a copy of these oaths.
I think so. I mean, I presume that the commissioners sign them, and then who keeps a copy? Who keeps a copy?
I have been keeping a copy.
Okay.
As Vice Chair membership, but I'm happy to share a copy with you.
No, that's okay. If maybe you could just send me a copy, and then I'll always have it with me, and I'll scan it into my iPhone so that so for future swearing-ins I can have it. Would that be okay?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll definitely do that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Your Honor. And now that we have 3 new commissioners, let's move on to doing roll call and established quorum for the meeting. Mr. Clerk?
Thank you, Chair. We'll start with Commissioner Wesley Liu is currently absent. I think he will be here shortly. Commissioner Amaya Nori. Thank you. Commissioner Corinne Huber-Levy. Thank you. Commissioner Zahara Agarwal is absent. Commissioner Paul Bocanegra.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Whitney Ginevra. Thank you. Commissioner Satwik Nori.
Here.
Commissioner Johanna Rasmussen.
Here.
Commissioner Ruth Singh is absent. Commissioner Susan Swope.
Here.
Okay, she is participating remotely and she is allowed to use 2 sick absences because, her family has COVID. So this is one of the absences. So she's able to participate and also vote during this meeting. So she's present. Commissioner Melissa Wilson.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Steve Green.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Tiffany Uhila Hato.
Here.
Sorry for butchering your name. Commissioner Ruchi Mantani.
Here.
Thank you. So 3 are currently absent. Oh, and then Chair.
I'm present also.
Chair Monreal.
Yes, here as well.
Yes.
Is anyone else? No. Good. All right, thank you. Then we have a quorum and we'll carry on. Moving on to section 2 of the agenda, this is when we ask whether there are members of the public who would like to make comment on items that are not on the agenda. So, Mr. Clerk, could you call for public comment?
Sure. Members of the public, if you wish to comment on a non-agenda item, please raise your hand in Zoom. If we have any members of the public here at this facility, please give me your speaker slip. I don't see any, but we'll wait. Okay, I don't see any hands raised, so no public comment.
Thank you. Moving on then to section 3 of the agenda, we will set the agenda. The agenda has been distributed. So I'll make a motion to approve the agenda. Are there any comments or edits, any changes that commissioners would make to the agenda? All right, hearing none, then all commissioners in favor of adopting the agenda as was distributed, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes.
Who made the second?
Oh, do we need a second? That's right, we need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, motion passes. Very good, thank you.
I guess Susan's not sitting at the table.
And then item 4 is to approve our minutes from our last meeting, which were distributed in part of the agenda packet. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Commissioner Bocanegra has made the motion. Commissioner Swope, I saw your hand up. Would you like to second?
Second.
Thank you. Did anyone have any edits or changes, anything that they wanted to amend in the minutes? Disclaimer.
Disclaimer, did you want to mention that these minutes are?
Yes. The disclaimer that I will mention is that minutes were provided to the commission by our clerk, and then Commissioner Swope made some changes and additions. So these minutes were written, the final version were written by Commissioner Swope. Any discussion on the minutes? All right, all in favor of approving the minutes for October, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Minutes are approved. Thank you. All right, now is where we go on to our usual updates from partners. I see Judge Adizade is busy at the moment. I did, Ron Ray, so we'll move on temporarily to section 5B, update from the private defender. Normally, Mr. Reyes joins us. He was not able to because of a scheduling conflict, but he did send me an email with some of the monthly data that he usually shares with the commission. And so I'll read that into the record now. 38 cases were assigned in the last 4 weeks. Of those 38 cases, 8 contained allegations for 707B offenses, which was a slight decrease from the previous 4 weeks. They received 52 calls on their hotline from law enforcement officers for Miranda consultations, and they processed just one sealing in the last 4 weeks. So that's all he had in his report. Mr. Clerk, I think maybe we should pause and call for public comment on the private defender's report.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Members of the public, if you wish to speak on item 5B, report by the private defender, read by the chair, please raise your hand now in Zoom. Okay, I don't see any hands raised, so back to you.
Okay, great. The other 5A is a report from the court. But again, I think Judge, oh, she's back.
I'm so sorry. I had somebody at my door.
No problem. If you need to attend to that, then
No, it's good. We're good now. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor. Was there anything that you wanted to update the commission on this month?
No, nothing. I just want to formally just congratulate the 3 new commissioners that were just sworn in. I'm excited for all 3 of you and looking forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Okay, there being no report, we don't need to call for public comment, right? Thank you, Mr. Clerk. All right, so we have 3 members of probation with us. Welcome, welcome, Chief Keen. We're on the section 5C of the agenda. So if we have updates from probation this month, we'd love to hear from you.
Yes, hello, everyone. Currently, we have 23 youth in our facility, and all of them are males at this time. And we have 1 GEP youth currently still at Camp Tech.
At residing at Camp Tech or coming in during the day?
Coming in during
the day, right.
Then for the record, could you state your name? Sorry.
Sanam Era with probation.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Jahan Clark, probation. We have a total of 406 youth on probation. 64 in diversion, 170 at court. We continue to not have any in placement or receiving AB 12 services. We do have one in placement aftercare and one SOAR youth.
One SOAR youth in detention,
Yes,
including the 23 that was mentioned before.
yes.
Okay, got it. Yeah. Commissioner Ashes.
Nice to see you. How many housing units are open and what is the racial makeup of the juvenile in detention right now?
Currently, we have 3 units open, and the racial makeup is we have 3 African American, 18 Hispanic, and 2 Polynesians.
Thank you very much.
So I know with camp closing, do you have any update on what's going to happen to the GEP youth? Are they going to continue going to camp even after it's closed, or is that?
So, and I'm sorry, this feels incredibly uncomfortable
I
talking to
know.
your back, so if you don't mind.
Would you?
actually stand
Yeah.
back.
It does feel very.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
This is not normal.
Yeah, it's not.
unusual situation.
I apologize. I don't mean to
No, we love it.
walk all through the space and everything. A couple additional points. And was any other data you guys need to? Okay. A couple other additional points. There was a question about Kemp, and so I want to kind of speak to that today. Kemp is not officially closed, and we are not closing Kemp. What we're doing is working with our justice partners to figure out an alternative usage for Kemp. There's one young lady still in the program as of right now. Our goal is for the young lady to finish the program. It is not our intention of dismantling the program while she's actively in it. However, this commission knows that over the years, we've tried unsuccessfully to house other young ladies into the space, even to the point where we attempted to have contracts with other counties to bring them in to receive the services that we got at that time. We did so not for some type of financial benefit. Actually, we operated at a financial deficit. We actually never charged at any point the full cost of what's associated with delivering those services. But unfortunately, we were not able to secure contracts moving forward. A lot of it was at the behest of the board not to want to approve contracts, and so we stepped back in that process. So we've achieved, in essence, functional zero at Camp Kemp. So it's important for us now to look at what is an alternative usage for the program. So what we are looking at and talking with the justice partners, and Judge Adizade is aware of this, what we're considering is looking at an educational component to utilize the space in that manner, which will serve both boys and girls. The reason why we want to do that is because, as we know, there's a certain aspects of young people returning to campus, which can be very challenging. We know that oftentimes our young folks have extended periods of time where they're waiting to get back on campus. What we see potentially is an opportunity to bridge that space, to offer a space where young people can go to school in that space, in that environment. As you all know, the Girls Improvement Program, Empowerment Program, actually has a school associated with it. So in working with our education partners, our goal would be to see if there's a possibility to provide 2 layers of kind of connection. Those young people that we had worked with in the past that were kind of right on the brink of kind of stepping into a deeper space of the detention and the delinquency part, which we've really worked really hard to try to keep out of that space. So that's where you had the girls that were coming in during the day to go to school. That was the attempt to kind of speak to that in a preventative way. Secondarily, while we want to continue to do that, we want to also, the boys who are being released from detention, who are hoping to get back on campus, our goal is to give them a bridge through that program initially to be able to get back on campus. We know from a data perspective that typically it can take us up to as many as 3 weeks for young people to get back on campus after they're released. This is an issue that I've been raising in this county for over a decade. It was something that I was very much engaged with in Alameda County before I came on board. So we've been trying actively to get the various superintendents from the various districts to get together to create a uniform practice of returning probation youth back to school. But not only just returning them back to school, but doing it in a way that actually empowers them and increases the opportunity for them to be successful. Because frankly, that doesn't exist right now. Our young people go back on campuses and frankly, they carry a scarlet letter that says, I'm on probation, and so I'm a bad kid, so watch me closer than you're watching everyone else. So from that perspective, we recognize there's a gap there. Secondarily, what we want to do with that program is to be able to utilize the programs that are still working with us, the CBO partners, to provide some also programming during that time when the space is open. So in essence, run it as if it's like a day program. And so you see that in many other jurisdictions where there are both adult and juvenile day programs where kids are able to come either for assistance with homework. They can receive counseling services if we're able to secure those services. You know, the Art of Yoga still is very actively involved in camp, and other programs that, from a reentry perspective, like Fly, that we want to try to tie in that we do have those contracts with. So that's the goal. Now, just for a piece of practicality, the reality is we have to continue to look at this and observe it down the road. It could be that 6 months from now, a year from now, it still may not necessarily be a viable option. At that point, as I've mentioned to the board on several occasions, they're going to have to make the decision as to how they want to utilize the space at that point. And so that's a board kind of statement. That's a board question. And so they'll have to make that determination. One of the things that I have asked for the county council, the county attorney to consider is really legally whether the facility can be utilized for something other than what is currently being utilized for. That's an open question that has not been resolved. And so I think until that question is actively resolved, then, you know, we won't really be able to say, well, let's use it as this, let's use it as that. Right. We're not even sure that's possible. And if it is not possible, then the board will have to make some financial decisions with regard to the debt service that's still owed in the space. So that's the goal with Kemp, is not to close it. So we are still going to actively have the space and be able to utilize it, hopefully with supporting with the judge and the DA's office and the private defender panel. We'll be able to come up with an agreement that works well for the young people that we can potentially service. No guarantee that it's going to work long term. There's absolutely no guarantee, but it's going to definitely be our goal to try to do our best to make it work. But the program is not closed. We're not closing the facility. We're not shuttering the facility. But there are some realities that come with doing a program different like this. The program will not be a 24-hour space. It hasn't been that in a very long time. The reality is since COVID, you know, it's not the program that I think everyone fell in love with over the years. So it's not necessarily in its same condition to say that all these things, all these programs and things were happening before there. Yes, there will be staffing movement, but frankly, that is part of the governance. So there's going to be staffing movement, and there's going to be changes to those types of things. Frankly, respectfully, I'm not even sure that's even something that's really, frankly, your concern or your preview. I respect that you all may have opinions about those things, but when it's all said and done, you know, we're not in the position to where, frankly, we can make labor decisions in this type of fashion. So those things are going to occur. So I want to be completely transparent about that. That's going to occur. And frankly, staff won't necessarily like it. They may not, you know, appreciate it. They may make various commentary around that point. But the fact is, nothing is changing that, you know, justifies any type of, you know, work agreement or somehow some violation of any type of employee rights or standing. So that's our goal long term. We'll certainly keep you guys abreast of that as we kind of move on, because we know that it's going to be certainly continued questions about, you know, how's the program doing? And ultimately, we don't know if we can convince the contracts that we have now to operate within this kind of modified space where they would provide services to a set period of time during the day. So we're encouraged and hope that that's going to occur. But once again, there's no finality to that at all.
So
Thank you for that update.
Yeah, so just so I understand, so the idea, and I know it's so preliminary, but the camp space would become sort of a transition school after incarceration or at the end of incarceration or during incarceration?
So a little bit of both. So ideally, so there's been some conversation with our education partners about even utilizing it as an alternative school space. We're not necessarily open to that, at least not in the beginning. We want to kind of see what we can see. We think that there are kids in the detention right now that could benefit for that being a transition space, as you kind of referenced. But also, we still want to have that preventative arm, which we had with the Girls Empowerment Program for youth that were not in custody, that were kind of in some of those early stages of delinquent behavior, and then being able to utilize that space as an alternative as well. So we want to kind of still have it from both perspectives, attack it from both ends. It allows us to have a space that can serve both boys and girls at the same time. And it's once again, I think a good alternative to the way we do that. And it addresses an identified problem.
Yeah, so it's a blended student body,
Yes.
both genders in the same classes.
Well, I can't speak to that yet because ultimately our educators, education
They'll make that
partners
decision.
will be the ones who will make those kinds of decisions. I don't want to make any promises as of today. It's very, very much in the early
Yeah,
stages.
just trying to get my brain around.
Yeah, it's not even in the oven
Yeah.
yet, so it's in the very early stages.
Mr. Rasmussen.
Yes.
Yeah.
So will the residential component be closed or will it be open if the judge sees that there's a young lady in our county that could benefit from the services there? Are they still going to be accepting?
I think
girls into the
that's to
program?
be seen, to be
Okay.
honest, because we're not quite sure just from a real practical space that will work. What we do want to do, obviously, is offer the girl gender-specific programming that's, to me, is still possible outside of that space. We still can offer the services that go along with that modality, and then obviously be selective and supportive of the young women we have in that environment. But as we know today, we have 0 girls. So it's difficult to plan out that the program will be able to just kind of jumpstart again, because as you know, it's a time duration to it. There has to be a lot of things that the board has to be comfortable in terms of kind of recommending in that space. And so it has to be, I think, the appropriate young ladies going forward. So I don't think we've always had the most appropriate young ladies in there. So we want to be careful about that again, as we move forward.
Will the GEP continue to act side by side with this new program?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they frankly are the model for why we kind of considered this, because we knew that they were able to be very successful in supporting the young women that way. And so to be able to open that up to the young men as well, the ones that are going to be heading back to school, I think it's just an additional arm of trying to support the education space.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I had a question. Just you mentioned that the timing depends on understanding what limitations might be set for the space.
No, ma'am.
Oh,
No, that was when I talked about the limitations for the space, that was the broader question of regard to, let's say we come back together 6 months from now, a year from now, and we still haven't been successful in jumpstarting a very vibrant program. Then I think the conversation is appropriate to say, maybe the space needs to be utilized for something else.
completely different. Oh, I see. So for this plan,
Yes.
it's well within the
Absolutely.
the statutory requirements.
Absolutely.
For everything. Oh, okay, great. So the timing then is kind of dependent on programming and getting the stakeholders together to talk about.
I think it's a little bit of, yes, ma'am. It's a little bit of both of those things. I know that Your Honor has been updated in our monthly by monthly partners meeting. And so we've had some conversations with regards to what that looks like. I'm sure that the DA and the defender panel would have some requests of things they would like to see to be a part of it. And so once that's all put together, then we would roll out and say, this is what it is. This is what the program is. This is what we coming to the program and what it will look like moving forward. We still want to make connection, obviously, with our CBO members.
Your best guess for timing?
I don't want to speculate, ma'am. I'm not sure exactly. It could be further along than I'm even aware of, because I had conversations of recent.
Thank you.
My question was also around timing, so I think Commissioner Levy asked my question. So,
and then one last thing, if I could have a little bit more of your time. We're certainly, I'll respectfully have comments with regard to the inspection report when we get to that on the agenda. But I think one thing I wanted to ask, I know in previous meetings we being probation have heard that this commission has been open and inviting for us to make requests of you to be supportive of the work that we're doing. And so I'd like to ask for a request today, if that's okay. I think it's very appropriate as you're bringing new commissioners on to kind of make these requests as we go. I think it's very appropriate that I'm having this conversation with you against the backdrop of a functional zero kind of girls population, right? I know that I've heard various commissioners here over the years talk about the desire to have a day when there's no one in custody, that the facility is not needed to be utilized. And I share that goal with you, that ultimately our goal at one point is to get to a functional zero space here in San Mateo County. Now, obviously, a lot of those things are outside of system control. I do think that investment in preventative work and the very far front end of the system is really the way to go to hopefully steer young people from coming into the system. And then when they step toe in it early, hopefully we can divert them and get them in other spaces so they don't have to come towards probation or come our way at all. That is still our desire as an organization. That said, at least for now, there's going to be a need to have a space where certain young people who are alleged to have committed certain types of crimes or even found to have committed in the dispo of these types of crimes, there has to be a space for them to be kept. Part of wanting to have this space is really responsible and responsive, I should say, to the fact that we know we want the space to be home-like. We know there's a tremendous amount of requests that you all have in terms of what the structure looks like, what the programming looks like, all of those things. But I want to respectfully remind you that we have to run a secure facility. It's a secure facility that has certain requirements that come along with that. Our goal is to try to make sure that we are open to the possibility of whatever recommendations this board makes or this group makes with regards to how we run the space and things of that nature. We are always about continuous improvement. Now, I may push back on something you may ask for. I may ask more questions about something you asked for. I may even say that you have something wrong in terms of how you see it. But that's not because I'm here to be combative, or nor are we to be combative as an organization. Our goal is to create an environment that is safe, secure, and supportive for every young person that comes into our space. My ask is that you all understand from our perspective that a large part of what safety comes from is not in numbers of staff. There's been conversations that somehow we are understaffed. We are not. We have not cut staff. There is a state ratio that determines how many staff you need into the number of youth that you have in your facility. We far exceed that number right now. So this kind of narrative that we're understaffed and it's causing security issues is not an accurate one. It's simply not. But the fact is, the facility is an ecosystem that is very fragile. It really is. And so my ask is that when commissioners and when you all come to that space, just please be mindful that once you leave, we still have to stay to work with the young people. And sometimes those kind of conversations about what's not good about the space or what's not good about their individual situation, they're left to process and deal with that, and sometimes not the most positive ways. And so that kind of creates an environment that can be tense. As you all know, we're a facility, we don't use pepper spray. We don't use advanced mechanical restraints. We're not using wraps and things of that nature. So our goal is to be able to have a safe, secure space through our interaction with our young folks. But it's a delicate, razor-thin kind of walk. As we look at these newer, more sophisticated, more challenging young people who also have oftentimes very physical management issues, it's a delicate space. And so all we respectfully ask of you is to be mindful of that when you come into the space, and to understand that it is never our goal to create a space that feels tense or unsupportive, but it has to be secure. And so we respectfully ask you guys to follow certain, requirements we have around policies, and how we do things, what gets brought into the facility. We're doing so because we are mindful of the much broader issues that have to exist and have to coexist long after you all leave. And so it's not to be in any way directive. I have no control over you. It is not my intention to try to exercise any of that. However, the reality is that we are left oftentimes in a very precarious position. And so we just would respectfully ask that you guys just be mindful of that. That if there's things that can be done or things that are happening that you disagree with, that you deal with that with us, that you have those conversations with us, or that frankly you have those conversations with me around things that you see that are problematic or whatever. because I'm the one who can best answer those questions, not line staff who, it's not their job. It's not their job to know policy decisions or budgetary decisions or why we do whatever. Frankly, all it amounts is to hearsay. So that's the ask, is that, you know, we could just be mindful of just kind of the environment and be thoughtful when you're in the space and thoughtful about kind of what the space needs to look like upon you leaving. Our goal is to make an environment where you guys feel comfortable coming in to see the kids. But we, you know, we do have to run the facility. We do. And, you know, and having to manage that is a very delicate set of circumstances. So respectfully, that's my ask. Thank you for the additional time. I didn't mean to be too long-winded, but I wanted to answer the initial questions. And then, like I said, we'll make any comments we need to after the inspection.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay, we appreciate your comments.
Yeah, sorry.
This is not a
Sorry.
optimal.
Sorry, excuse me, sorry.
All right. We appreciate a longer and thorough update from probation this month. Thank you for coming, Chief Keen. Moving on now to section 6.
Sure.
Oh, yes, apologies. Mr. Clerk, we should call for public comment on section 5C, update from probation.
You read my mind. Members of the public, if you wish to comment on item 5C, report by Probation Chief John Keen, please raise your hand now on Zoom. Okay, I do see one hand raised from Becca. Becca, you'll have 2 minutes, so please proceed.
Yes, thank you for that great report, Chief Keen. I just had a quick question. I understand that there's a, when I did a tour, that there's a beautiful new mental health facility that's been underway for quite some time, and I thought was going to open this month. I just wanted to know an update on that.
So the de-escalation room, I believe that's what you're asking about?
Yes.
And hopefully I'm speaking loud enough for you to hear me. So we did open the de-escalation room on the 23rd, right before Thanksgiving. And so we are looking forward to our youth utilizing it on an ongoing basis. And we're moving towards our second extension of that, which is to extend the mural out into other parts of the space. 6 youth participated in that part of the program. And so we believe that other youth are going to be inspired to want to participate in the secondary part of that as well. And then since our last conversation around it, we have worked with BHRS to provide a confidential space for those services when they need to meet with you to be conducted. And so we're are happy that we were able to accommodate them as well in that request.
All right, thank you. Is there any other public comment?
Thank you. I don't see any other hands raised. So, and for, oh, no, okay, never mind. She put her hand down. And for the record, Commissioner Liu arrived at 5:49. See.
All right, thank you, Mr. Clerk. So now we will move on to section 6 of the agenda. We have on the heels of the update from the chief about the potential educational use of Camp Kemp, we have a few reports on education. 6A will be from our newly sworn-in Commissioner Magtani on her report on the difference between court schools and quote regular high schools.
Yeah.
Which is in the agenda pack.
So this is a pretty brief report, but it details some key differences between regular high schools in California and court schools. So I'll go through some of those points that are in the report, including one we talked about the school thing. Most students in court schools receive less instructional time than students in like general public high schools in California. We found specifically they receive 2/3 of their normal instructional time, which can make things obviously very difficult when they're transferring out of school and with amassing enough credits to continue their educational path. We also found with teacher credentialing, oftentimes the teachers in court schools have multiple subject credentials, whereas in regular high schools, they usually have single subject credentials for every subject. So this can sometimes be difficult for students in court schools if their teacher doesn't have quite the level of mastery necessary for more advanced subjects, which can again lower the quality of teaching and learning in these schools. To add on to this, oftentimes there isn't even like a in-person teacher-led instruction. A lot of times they use online learning, which can be very helpful and a very, I think, very good resource in the scenario that there aren't like teachers available. But still, the quality can sometimes not be very good compared to regular high schools. As we saw with some students who talked about this in some of the articles and reports I cited in this report. The graduation requirements are also oftentimes lower in court schools, which has its benefits because it's easier for them to graduate high school and go to advanced to a higher level of education, but it still, again, lowers the quality of education. Specifically, court schools typically require 13 courses to graduate, whereas regular school districts often require 22 to 26 year-long courses. But it should be noted that both detained youth at both regular and court schools can choose a 13 course path to graduation if they would like. So that is an option to everyone. So this, again, we see like more issues of transitioning with transferring these court credits, particularly with partial credits, because oftentimes they aren't in these court schools for a full school year. So, but they still went through like very important learning that should be credited for, but oftentimes isn't. And this is, I think, very detrimental to their learning. Like it can be demotivating to have to re-earn those credits when returning to school and can make students less motivated to re-enroll in school. In fact, we found that every academic credit actually earned in court schools makes students 1.2 times more likely to re-enroll in school. So it does have quite a big impact that the credits that they earn in court schools are actually earned and transferred when they go to their next, when they transition out of these schools. We also saw like pretty high truancy rates, which is surprising, especially considering that they really have nowhere else to go. So the statistics we have in this report, you should like see it under the lens that like any statistic of students having truancy and absenteeism is pretty severe, considering that like they don't have anywhere to go, but they're still skipping school, and this is a pretty big problem. We saw that court schools in California have a high suspension rate of 10.2%, and then truancy rates in the 2013 to 2014 school year we saw range from 28.89% to 68.55%. And to add on to those suspension rates, they're often due to willful defiance, which can be for very minor offenses. If you would even call it an offense, it's like rolling one's eyes. It's very ambiguously defined, so this can often be very detrimental as well if they are suspended from school and taken out from their educational path.
Can I ask a question just on the point about suspensions and expulsions or truancy? Is in your report, are court schools by definition schools in detention facilities? Or because there are court schools that are for youth that are on probation in the community as well, or detention. This is specifically detention in detention facilities. Okay.
Yeah. And with all of this in mind, the post-graduation rates are quite low for students in court schools. where we have some statistics in this report. For example, in the 2011 to 2012 school year, only 1.1% of detained youth were accepted or enrolled in post-secondary education. And we have similar statistics with like job training, education, employment, etc., which is obviously very important to deterring recidivism and ensuring like they go on to a successful life. With all this being said, we did find like a lack of data. So that is also an issue, because to even address these problems, it's important to have data to support that. We found that these court schools are part of an accountability measurement system, but it tracks year-to-year progress, which, as I mentioned, isn't quite adequate for this situation, since most students aren't in court schools for a full school year. And also I think Karen mentioned that a lot of these, that some of these statistics are not super recent. So I did find a follow-up report on one of the reports I used here, which I didn't have time to include in this report, but if anybody would like that, that has some more recent statistics.
Yeah, that'd be great if you could maybe just circulate it to us post the meeting. I'd be just interested too, because 10, 11 years, maybe some strides have been made in terms of connecting with this youth population.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, there's an educational webinar by the Youth Law Center.
Yeah, that's the report I was talking about.
Called Out of Sight, Out of Mind. And my understanding is it's going to focus on the data question. Like, how do we know what's happening in court schools? The effectiveness.
I think it's a similar group, but on December 4th, there's also a presentation on high quality education for incarcerated.
That's OYCR, I think.
Yeah.
So I plan on attending tomorrow. Most of your plan.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Montani, for your report.
Thank you very much.
And I don't think we have any action to take on. It was just informational, so thank you for that. Did anyone have any other questions?
Is it appropriate for me to ask a question?
Yeah, please.
I'm very familiar with the report. So when I first came on board in 2013, I worked very closely with Youth Law on this issue of suspensions. And so when you look at the report that it's referenced that are being talked about tomorrow in that conversation, you will see San Mateo County in 2012, 2013 had a 58% truancy rate.
Oh, wow.
And so the question with regard to how you truant when you're in detention is really focused around behavioral issues, where when young people have behavioral issues in class, and then they're asked to leave class, or they don't come back to class because of fights and things like that nature. A lot has changed since that data. So I wanted to say that. So when you see our name tomorrow in that report, you're not startled and you're not immediately thinking that that's what's still occurring. One of the most important things that have changed is in an agreement with Youth Law back in 2015, myself and the education department at that time agreed to create what we called a care classroom. That care classroom was a direct kind of response to this cohort of young people that were missing time from class because of behavioral issues. And so that I have that on my brain now. The care classroom had fallen out of use during COVID, and education department is bringing it back. I think, matter of fact, we received an email today saying that it's kind of coming online for a couple of students who are having some challenges. And so, so some of that data in there does have information from San Mateo County, but I wanted to kind of speak to it directly because it's not current, as was said by the commissioner, that it's very dated data. And a lot of the conversations around kind of what was transpiring in many of the schools around suspensions and truancy is reflective of different changes. And also to things like room confinement and things like that have changed dramatically during that time span. I will say though, it's, in that same report, we had 0 suspensions. And so we were in the 0% for the suspension space. And I think that we were also very low in another metric around negative outcomes for schools. But I think that was just, I wanted to just point that out because like I said, I know tomorrow during the presentation, you'll hear some of those numbers that they utilize, but it's from close to a decade at that point.
Can you talk a little bit about, so I totally agree with you that up until last year, the suspensions were very low. And then last year, the school is on a school improvement plan for suspensions for this year. And I know that the school is having teachers on special assignments so that there's an administrator on site. What are, based on reading and not actual knowledge, who initiates suspension when there's a problem in class seems to be an issue for, for the quality of the school environment. And what can you tell us about how that happens? Like whether probation is always looking for the teacher for direction or whether a GS might step in?
I think it's a combination of both. I mean, I think obviously in an environment where safety is important, if a fight does occur,
right.
Under current law, once again, to distinguish between now and the time of that report, under current law, trying to de-escalate the situation, talk the young person down to see if they're able to rejoin the classroom is, I think, is what is ideal in most circumstances. We do look to the teacher to tell us what direction they may have in terms of whether they feel the environment is a safe one or that the young person can operate safely in that space. We don't issue a suspension from school.
Okay.
So that's not our space.
Okay, so that's great.
Yeah,
You do not issue a
that's
suspension.
not our space.
So if the suspensions have gone up, that's not from a GS initiating that.
That's not our preview.
Huh, okay.
We don't come into the education space to tell them how to do their jobs.
Right.
We simply try to support them in that space.
Opposite of the impression that I received from my
I don't know.
interview.
No, for suspensions,
Yeah.
the GS wouldn't do that. Now, if there's somebody who is acting out of control, they might say they need to be removed temporarily, have a break. So that would be something that the GS would come in and or if they see it's a situation about to happen and they need to mediate,
right.
They will do that. But as far as like suspending from school, now when it comes to technology and things like that, that's usually a conversation between the GS or the manager and the school department to say, okay, this person has been in violation, X amount of time, so we need to kind of rethink and reset. But as far as suspensions, no.
Can you talk about attendance and mandatory school attendance and how there are truancies in the school and court?
Well, as I said, the how from my understanding, the way a child is determined to be truant in a school setting is when they're not allowed to go to class. Now they can also choose to say, I don't want to come out my room and go to class as well, which can count also as a truant. So it's either one of those types of situations. So once again, we work very closely with the schools to give us the insight as to what is the proper way to deal with that. And I really appreciate Jahan mentioning the computer users. That's something that's very much a collaborative space because they have their own internet system, we have our own internet system. So we have to kind of coalesce and try to figure out how to make that work. Now they can make decisions to, let's say, remove access temporarily that is outside of our space. We don't come in and tell them you shall re-engage access. That's something we work with them collaboratively on. And we do our best to try to not have a situation where things happening in school follows the person back to the unit. So they can have a space where they're not, quote unquote, in trouble the entire day, But as Jahan correctly said, if there are issues of safety that we see where we have to intervene and they're out of control and being disruptive or harmful to themselves or others, then we're going to step in and we're going to remove that young person from that space. The care classroom is the space where that young person who may still have a conflict with the person in class, but that person still needs to go to class. That's where the care classroom comes in. And that was the agreement that we had made with youth law many years ago, which, stimulated that space.
So I was wondering, when it comes to like school attendance and if they miss too many classes, does that mean that extends their time that's in juvenile hall, or so?
No,
Okay.
no, the court, and I don't want to speak for the court, but no, that's not something that we would do. We wouldn't say you missed X amount of classes, so you need to extend your time in the facility.
And I will say, with a lot of those kids, it's usually a personal choice, maybe safety, or they're not comfortable. And so in those instances, the school department will work with that individual. So whether it's, okay, you might not want to come to school, so we'll give you a packet or come to you and have school on the unit until they're able to come and, go to the school department and coexist with everybody else. But that's not always the case. I know there was one in the past who just refused school, refused programming, refused, I mean, even to the urging of staff. I mean, there would be just certain staff where this youth would come out, and then other days it was like, no, I just want to be in the dark. And so I think we just work with everybody on an individual level.
Chair, we do have a hand raised by commissioners.
Oh, yes, Commissioner Swope, sorry.
I'm not sure I'm understanding exactly what's being said here. My understanding of truancy is when a student decides that they're not going to go to school. If they're suspended, it's not their choice. And that, to me, they're not truant if they're suspended. Am I missing something here?
I think we were talking about both situations. There are some times when a child in detention may, like the probation staff were just saying, just choose not to go to school. They refuse to come out of their room. That would be a case, my understanding is that's a case of truancy, as opposed to there was a behavioral issue in the classroom, and so they may have been suspended. And therefore then they're missing class. So we're talking about both situations.
I just wanted to be sure you're not conflating them.
Right.
May I have a couple questions?
And it's not, if the child is given an equivalent work packet, for example, it's not considered suspension. Suspension is being removed from the class and missing the rest of that class and the beginning of the next class without an equivalent educational program being provided. So you could remove a child, my understanding, and you can correct me, you could remove a child from class, send them back to unit, give them a work packet. And I don't love work packets, but that's not a suspension because they're still receiving an education. So suspension is when no educational intervention is happening during that period into the next period.
I'm going to ask that we move on to section 6B of the agenda, just because we.
Sorry.
No, we need to move. I'm sorry. We need to move on to 6B. So it's a very interesting report on court schools, and it's something that maybe the commission can explore in 2024. But in order to end 2023 on time, we need to discuss the educational inspection report and get on to the Youth Services Center report also. So sorry,
okay, great.
I'm gonna cut it off, but hang on.
Yeah.
I think I'm wondering, Mr. Clerk, whether there was any other public comment on 6A before we move on to 6B.
Let me just ask if members of the public want to comment on item 6A, please raise your hand now. Okay, no hands are raised.
Thank you. So then, thank you, commissioners. Moving on to 6B, which is our educational inspection report, led by Commissioner Wilson. So Commissioner Wilson, take it away.
Great. We had a huge number of inspectors, which was exciting because somebody next year will lead the educational inspection. Rushi's presentation provides context for some of the things that are, of concern, but also things that the school does well. So our school does not have lowered standards for graduation. It has 220 units, which is like a very normal number of units. They still have a pathway to graduation through AB 167, but that's not lowered. There was another thing on that list that's not an issue for our school towards the end, but it will come to me or it won't. However, we do have teachers teaching out of assignment in our school. And that is for Camp Kemp. It was 1 point, so Camp Kemp's staff was 2.4, and 1.6 of the 2.4 full-time equivalents were teaching out of assignment. And Hillcrest, there are 3 teaching positions, and 1.4 are teaching out of assignment. So about half the teachers do not have subject matter authorization in the area that they're teaching in our schools.
Is it subject matter credentialing? Is that the right term?
Yes.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And that should be of concern, because when you have a child who's at a deficit educationally, you need expertise to bring that child up to speed. Another thing is that our school day compared to a normal school day is lesser. And so it's magical thinking if we think that we can do more with less time. So those were some of my general, big comments. Schools are, can you go to slide 3? So schools are, slide 3. Oh, you have a different, okay, he has a different slide. Okay, well, schools are under section 1370 of Title 15, and then they're also governed by Title I, Part D. And Title I, Part D is specific funding for neglected and delinquent children and youth, so that they can meet the same challenging state academic standards of all children. Also, it provides funding for services for transitioning, and also a support system for continuing education. And so these are the 2 statutes sort of that I referred to when looking at the school. The section Title 15 asks whether we consider the school to be providing a rigorous quality education. And that's been on the form for the last 4 years. And unfortunately, for the last 3 years, the 3 years that I've led the educational inspection, I can't in good conscience say that it's a rigorous quality education. I have Googled the words rigorous quality education. There's not an exact definition as to what that is. I've talked to my teacher colleagues about what that might consist of. But so I thought I'd walk you through some of my thought process about what that might be. So actually, would you go back 1 slide, because your slides and my slides are now different. So the first thing I would look for is there in-person instruction in the areas the school requires for graduation? And so that would mean that the kids in our school need 7.5 year-long units of electives and 1 year-long unit of visual and performing arts. And so those electives would normally be career technical education, visual performing arts, or world language. And it's using Edgenuity. Edgenuity is great at credit recovery. It's probably not great at developing skills in instruction. So that's unfortunate. The science curriculum is not consistent with current state standards. That textbook is 16 years old, as is the social studies textbook, and the teaching is not in line with NGSS standards, and the teacher does not have subject authorization in that area. PE as well. There is a problem with staffing because the PE position, for example, that's just a matter of having somebody there who's credentialed in PE, and this is something that we need to bring to the school board, because it's well beyond what we know about. We just know that there's a problem because the programming's not there and the staffing to support that programming is not there. And I don't know how to solve it. So let's see. So flip through. Okay, career technical education. So back one. Career technical education. This is a huge priority, I know, but my understanding is that there's a staffing problem here because the teachers that they have do not have a career technical credential. And I think it's going to be a stretch to make that happen. I don't know how that happens. I don't know whether you could have maybe a teacher of record who's different from an actual professional coming in and teaching a subject matter. So that's a question that to go back to the school. I mean, the good news here is that I really believe Chris Schaus has worked in probation, and she also and she's the district, the assistant district instruction. District, thank you, of instruction. She's both worked in probation and she's a school person. So I believe that if she can if it can be figured out, she can figure it out. But they just seems like hard problems to try to solve. And career technical education, I gave you the definition just so that in future years, ideally, we're not looking for one class, we're looking for a sequence of courses that lead somewhere. I would kind of argue that it doesn't exactly matter what area it is, just being trained in something is a good in and of itself. In the same way that, like, if there was any visual and performing arts, let's just say it's going to be, you know, choir. You know, maybe that's not what everybody would want to study, but a good program in one area is better than no program at all. Technology use obviously is important. The one way that, so I think technology use has dropped off. It was strong during COVID, and these youth don't really like to use technology for writing, but that's the environment that they're in when they return to their school. So just because, so somehow you got to bridge that gap. The only technology use problem we really heard about was for the kids attending college, that they aren't.
The websites are like blocked or something, and they have access to.
Yeah, but yeah, they could only get access to their course material on unit, but not at the school. So instead of going to school and being able to do all the work, they had to bifurcate where they were going to do what, so that they could get so that's obviously, that's not ideal. And I don't know if it's been fixed now. That would be, so all of this is what was true in September of 25th. Another thing that was true, and I don't know the status of this, is the principal had been on leave. And so the principal was on leave after the first week of school for 6 weeks. And I don't know, is the principal back? No, right? So that's another staffing problem. Okay, so let's see, go to the next page.
Melissa, can I just ask a quick question?
Yeah.
So the kids, when they attend college,
yes,
through Project Reach.
Project Change, yeah.
Oh, so Project Change, and they're attending not at College of San Mateo, is that correct?
They're online. They're able to attend Skyline or CSM or Kenyatta online.
Yes.
And that's why I was trying, the bright star in our program is Project Change. That whereas in many court schools, there's no pathway to college, we have this phenomenal pathway to college. And that is the hope, is that you saw the graduation statistics last month about the skill set. But if we can get those kids into college, they have unlimited potential to develop the skills. And we have, like, we don't have the school to prison pipeline, we have the school to college pipeline in our institution. And that's an amazing asset.
I was just confused when you said that when they're when they're in the hall, they have access to all the materials, but when they're on site, they only.
Oh, sorry, when they're in, okay, yeah. On unit, they have access to all their course materials.
Through Project Change,
At Hillcrest,
the school across the yard.
they don't.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I'm so
I
sorry.
was thinking, like, do they actually go to
No.
the college? No.
No.
It's just unit versus at the hall. Got it.
School.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And the issue, as I understand it, is that there's Go Guardian software at the Hillcrest School that's designed for children under the age of 18. And so oftentimes our college kids are given links or web pages to go to from their professors that are blocked. And so they can't access that at the school because of the software. And that software, it's my understanding, does not exist on the housing unit. Is that right, Ms. Clark?
I'm gonna wrap up. Okay.
No, can I ask one other question about the credentialing?
Yeah.
Is a root issue here the relatively small number of students? So therefore, a small number of teachers, and teachers are spread across many subjects, some of which they're not credentialed for. Is that kind of a?
Some of the problem is based in that.
Okay.
Our teachers have been there a considerable amount of time, right? We don't have new teachers.
The camp teachers are relatively new.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
the math teachers
I don't
relatively
think they
new.
were new, they just have rotating schedules, so they're the same old.
Oh, really?
quote-unquote, old
Really? I
teachers.
thought the English teacher and the math and science, I thought the
No,
camp.
they also teach at.
Oh,
the
they're still
YSC.
there.
So what they would do is
Oh,
during an open period, they would go and teach that course, that particular course at camp. And
Right.
then go back and teach at the hall.
I was referring to the teachers they had like 2 years ago or 3 years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Miss K, the last one, she had been there probably, for a.
That's what I
long
was
time.
referring to when I said.
And
they
then
were
Miss
the same.
Angers, who was the other teacher, she's been around for a
Yeah,
long
for a
time. She
long
actually taught at Gateway, Community Schools, and then at the YSC.
And BG's been there
Yeah,
about
for
30 years.
years, yes.
But BG's teaching PE as well as social studies. So that's an example of out of area assignment. Yeah, there seems to be an issue there. Okay, so the last thing that I wanted to point out is our school says that all students are receiving the supplemental instruction that's required by Title 15, just by the nature of being in the school, and that there don't need to be discrete programs for English language development and reading. Other court schools have discrete programs for reading and English language development. And I think it would be appropriate for our school to have that as well. If we're not able to demonstrate that students are minimizing learning gaps, which we're not. So maybe it wouldn't be necessary, maybe the supplemental instruction, we could accept it. Like, okay, they're receiving it. If we saw growths in, achievement, academic achievement, but we're not seeing that. So that's an area that I would be looking for, is to get, real support for English language learners. And I know that this is priority for San Mateo County. I know that English language learners, they talked about at the last board meeting. And then finally, I think there needs to be more time in school, and then practice time, like homework outside of school. But okay, next slide, and then I may have finished. Okay, what I asked while we were there is, what skills do we want students to be able to do after they're here for a certain period of time? Like, let's differentiate educational objectives. And there didn't seem to be a plan. Now, the principal wasn't there. The person that was leading us around was a new hire. Maybe it's there, but it seems like that there should be a conception of what do we want youth to be able to learn how to do if they're here for a month versus 3 years, and that those two things should look very different. So next year, when we go back, what I would recommend is, indicators of success to me are whether the work packets have been replaced, because the work packets are of really low quality, whether there are rubrics in grading, whether their kids are spending more time in school, whether they're being required to be in school, and whether assessment is happening, and that they're going to present to us in January about their assessment plan going forward. Next slide. And the school has a lot of assets. And I think I want to highlight here, because probation's here, the probation staff that go to school with the youth are very focused on the youth's education. And Ms. Jimenez, I met through Each One Reach One when she was a tutor, as an example of that. And she is who sits with the youth who are going to college right now. So there's a whole new team. They're working really hard, but there's lots of pieces to address, and the union is somehow mixed into this, and I don't know. It's so beyond me to understand how unions work, but somehow that's at play. Oh, and you know what? The graduates of Hillcrest, are a huge asset. So those kids who are in college who have finished Hillcrest could be used to try to figure out how to solve some of these questions. Okay, next slide. I may be done. Let's see. Just I would implore that everybody in this, the judge, probation, the school, if education is likely the most effective intervention we can provide youth to change the trajectory of their lives, then it needs to be an education first environment, and where everybody's an educator and where everybody's thinking about education all the time. And then the second thing is we need to measure and report outcomes. And those outcomes don't have to be only standardized testing. Standardized testing is one piece of it, but kids can demonstrate, yes, I know how to write a paragraph, or I know how to write a sentence. I mean, or I know how to write an essay. Yeah. I think I'm done. Is there anything else there? Yeah, that's done. That's the school's learning outcomes that I put there, but questions?
And I just want to note for everyone, well, we haven't made a motion yet to accept the educational inspection report, which we should, and then have discussion about the report itself as well. So do you want to make?
I move to accept the educational inspection report.
A second.
We don't need a second.
We'll have a second anyway, just in case. Commissioner Bocanegra. So that motion is on the floor to adopt the report as provided in the agenda packet. You've given us an overview of some of the observations and recommendations, but then we have the actual report in the packet. So commissioners, do you have questions, comments, edits about the report itself?
I didn't get to read.
I had a couple of questions and comments.
Yes, Commissioner Ugoletti.
Since the principal is on leave, you had no interaction with anyone who's.
Right. Well, we interacted with
the school director, or no?
Michael
Doherty, Director of School Programs.
Mhm.
Who was the principal?
James Vaughn, and I haven't met, we asked to come back when the principal was there, and that was not possible.
How do you spell that last
And
name?
is anyone here? I don't have a panel view on Zoom. I'm just wondering if anyone is attending the meeting from the County Office of Education. Well, actually, I was thinking Chris San Mateo often attends our meetings.
Maybe they could raise their hand for
Yeah,
you.
that's a good idea.
For the clerk, if they are attending.
If you're from the Office of Education, please raise your hand in Zoom. Anyone?
Or would like to.
So my question is if I know that they'll be doing a presentation to us in January, but I'm wondering if there's a plan to present our report to them in advance of their presentation to us, because it might be useful for them to see, or we're providing them with a copy of the report.
They have reviewed this. I submitted a draft and asked for comments before submitting it to the commission.
And that goes to everyone on your list here, or?
It goes to Sarah Notch, who distributes it as she sees.
Also, it's normal practice for us, once we do approve the educational inspection report, to distribute it to a number of people, including the County Office of Education.
Yeah, and they've expressed interest in having us come and speak at a meeting in the upcoming year.
Great. My only other question was pertaining to the teacher on special assignment positions. And it's kind of a theme that has gone through our other inspection report as well, is that students have indicated they need assistance, would like more assistance in the classroom. And I think there was a request for tutoring, and I'm just wondering if the teacher on special assignment positions are actually going to be backfilling for tutoring. Is that the same?
That's what they say.
Okay.
So there is no tutoring program?
There's no tutoring.
Has there ever been a tutoring program?
Each one reach one.
Each one reach
And didn't CASA provide tutoring at one point before the pandemic?
No, CASA does not, CASA provides mentoring, but not tutoring.
Okay.
I mean, there may be individual CASAs that do some tutoring with kids. but-
Yeah, as an individual.
Yeah.
thing. Okay.
So
So
I'm guessing each one, reach one, and this is for you, each one, reach one, merged with success centers. Is it possible to get tutoring back as part of programming, do you think?
They have it. If I'm not mistaken, that they're offering tutoring services through Success Center currently.
In our
I
general
believe
hall?
that they're doing it with the graduates at this time.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay. So the youth who are in college are being supported by success centers, each one reach one tutoring is what we think.
That I'm not 100% sure, but I
Okay.
know there is some tutoring services that are offered to them.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's being done not by a staff member, but by an outside organization.
yes, I believe that is true.
And I think coming in the new year, we've met with Chris in the school department, so they're gonna actually have like a additional period for classwork and tutoring.
Okay, great. Commissioners, are there any other comments or questions about the educational inspection report?
My only comment is that Melissa is incredible. Like, she has so much information and knowledge. I learned so much from you, like on the inspection. Like, I know that like I was there to inspect, but I was learning a lot. So thank you so much.
And I just want to say that I'm really appreciative of Melissa's experience and skill and what she brings to this, because it's not easy to understand and there's a lot of nuance to it, and you really get it, and you've taught us all.
I've learned so much this year because of the other project. You know, I didn't know anything about Title I, and now I know, oh, wait a second, it's a big deal. You know, we need to look at things in context for Title I. One question I asked Monroe just recently is, the school is supposed to notify parents for if a child's been enrolled after 4 weeks, the school's supposed to send home notification that the child is being taught by teachers without subject area authorization. And I don't know if that's happening.
So as part of my inspection interview with parents, I asked if they were receiving notifications from schools, and their answer was no.
They're supposed to have a handbook as well in their primary language.
A handbook. On the
Parent
school.
handbook, yeah, and that's
For
a,
the-
yeah, that's a Title I requirement.
And the other thing I want to say is you're absolutely right. School is a highlight for these kids. They do exceptionally well. They're invested, they're excited about it.
Yeah.
They have plans. So we really need to do as much as we can to support them in these efforts, because they're ready to go.
The other thing I'd be so wrong to not highlight is that when you read about court schools generally, you hear about toxic environments, and this school is not a toxic environment. This is a very nurturing, youth-focused place. And that's probably more important than any of the criticisms that I could make, is that the students feel respected as learners in the environment and cared for and challenged. So that's all very, very positive.
All right, I think that's a good note for us to start heading towards a vote to accept the commissioners on education. But before we do, we should call for public comment on item 6B, this education inspection report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the public, if you wish to comment, please raise your hand now in Zoom. Okay, no hands are raised.
Okay, great. So let's, the motion on the floor is to adopt the education inspection report provided by the committee led by Commissioner Wilson. And I didn't hear any changes or edits to it. So the motion is to adopt the education inspection report as provided in the agenda packet. All commissioners in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstaining?
Commissioner Bocanegra, do you want to be in this motion? This is to approve.
He approves, he approves. The motion passes, the report is approved. Thank you, Commissioner Wilson. There is one other smaller education inspection report. That's section 6C of the agenda. We also, when I say we, the members of the education inspection team and myself, we did go and do an inspection of the school at Canyon Oaks Youth Center as well. And I was the editor, I guess, of the report that was produced. So that's item 6C. I'll make a motion that we adopt the education inspection report the Canyon Oaks education inspection report. Mr. Ginevra, would you mind seconding?
Second.
Thank you. That you were on that committee. I don't have slides, but I'll just say a few things about Canyon Oaks. The main thing about Canyon Oaks, as noted in the facility inspection report, which we already approved, is that there are a small number, relatively speaking, of youth there, and a very involved team of professionals that support them, and that includes the teachers. In particular, the main teacher who is credentialed in multiple areas, including special ed, has been there for close to 20 years now, and really just does an excellent job with the kids that are at Canyon Oaks. We spent at least a couple of hours visiting with him, and also some of the other teachers when we did our inspection. I think one other thing of note is just how closely they work with the mental health professionals that are at Canyon Oaks, since that is Canyon Oaks' primary function, is to work with kids that have significant mental health issues. So their education, it has to be conducted in close coordination with those mental health professionals, and they do have a very strong working relationship. Some of the issues that Melissa noted at Hillcrest, like, for example, I think it was science and social studies textbooks that are 16 years old, not yet having done an analysis with the MAP testing and an assessment of progress. These are some things that are in the recommendations in the report that could be improved, and something to look for next year in particular is to look at that testing data and try to assess what progress kids are making there. But overall, the care and attention of the teachers, along with the mental health professionals that they work closely with at Canyon Oaks, makes it a very positive environment for the kids that are there to learn.
Well, one thing that was Canyon Oaks compared to Hillcrest is Canyon Oaks, there was a lesson plan. So we said, what are you teaching today? And he said, here is my lesson plan.
Right.
And I could look at that lesson plan and go, yep, I see critical thinking skills. I think drawing conclusions, and that's what it was not at Hillcrest.
There's no lesson.
There is not there might be a plan, but but there's not learning outcomes are not articulated.
At Canyon Oaks, when you sit in the classroom and we asked for an example of a lesson plan, when you're sitting there, you see also the plan for the day is on the board. If you ask for a lesson plan, it's there, it's written down. So they're just very well organized, and then that results in good communication also to students and from the head teacher to the other teachers that participate. So you feel like you're in a well-ordered classroom when you're there, really.
And a rich environment too.
A stimulating environment as well. Yeah.
Whereas the classrooms at Hillcrest, possibly because the staff are moving around, the classroom walls are not up to date or attended to.
And to the point, I think also that Melissa made it abreast about arts education, for example. Like art therapy is a critical part of the curriculum for youth at Canyon Oaks. And there's a whole separate room for that is also a stimulating environment from that standpoint. So yeah, any other questions about Canyon Oaks? Yeah.
Actually, this is a question about truancy and suspension.
At Canyon Oaks?
No. Not at Canyon.
So
Yeah.
off topics then?
Well, topic in the sense of education, and there's just a lot of information here, so I apologize for processing it a bit late, but I was thinking of Susan's question and distinguishing between the suspensions and the truancy, and also any type of corrective behavioral responses. And is there a situation, did you come across situations where youth were not permitted to go to class and that was truancy? Is that ever a kind of a punitive?
I have no awareness of anything like that.
So if kids are not going to class.
That's not I don't know.
Yeah.
My instinct is no. I don't believe that probation is saying you can't go to class. I don't think
No, that
that's
doesn't
happening.
happen.
No.
He is shaking his head.
No, no, that's not our goal, is
Yeah.
never to keep them from class. They may choose not to go to class, or maybe, as we've already outlined, it may be a situation where it's not safe for them to do so.
Right.
But, we want to be careful not to speak for education. So they're not here today, so a lot of those questions need to be directed to
But
us.
there would never be a situation where youth acted outside of the classroom and was not permitted to go to class.
We never use
No,
the absence of education as a punishment tool.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. Thank you.
I do have a couple questions. Okay.
About Canyon Oaks?
Yes.
Go. Yes, Commissioner Liu.
Rest assured, I'm asking about Canyon Oaks.
Okay, let's stay on, I want to stay on topic, yeah.
Yes, I'll try to. But the definition of truancy is without excuse. So whenever a student is without excuse missing school 30 minutes or more, that's the definition of truancy. Let's see. So Canyon Oaks, there was a line that described the IEP meetings with the therapeutic staff. So I was wondering if you have any insight into how frequent that is and how that works, and whether that can transfer to the YSC.
So all students at Canyon Oaks have an IEP. IEP, there's there are laws about how often. I believe so now I'm making it up without having it in front of me, but like within 30 days, there has to be an IEP meeting, a review meeting, and then every 3 months or 6 months, I'm not sure, there has to be.
Within 30 days of coming to the new school.
Yeah, but I'm not up to date on my IEP, but but what you're kind of getting at is, and this goes back to Hillcrest, is so IEP, it wouldn't be a bad idea to have basically IEPs for all students at Hillcrest. Because IEP meetings really are, what are our goals for this child? How can we facilitate that for this child?
Or at least perhaps making it kind of a standard step in joining Hillcrest School that they at least be assessed. Right, but there are also rules around and laws around assessment, right? Like parents need to request, it needs to be, once a request is made, a certain number of days, there are a certain number of days for the school to respond and so forth, but.
And I understand that there are different populations that Canyon Oaks targets, but I'm curious about how we can promulgate more involvement on the part of therapeutics with regards to IEP and education at Hillcrest.
At Hillcrest. It's a good question and maybe a good project for next year.
Okay.
Did you have any other questions? No. Oh, okay, great. Any other questions? All right, the motion on the floor is to adopt the educational report on Canyon Oaks. I don't think I heard any actual edits or changes. And before we move to a vote, we should ask whether there are members of the public that want to make any comment on the Canyon Oaks educational report.
That's right. Thank you, Chair. Members of the public, if you want us to comment on item 6C, Please raise your hand now in Zoom. Okay, there is one hand raised by Denise Peralta. Denise, you'll have 2 minutes. So please proceed. 1 second. Go ahead, Denise.
Unmute.
I just gave you permission to unmute.
Hola, buenas noches.
Un momento, 1 second. Spanish interpreter, could you please assist? One second. Kimberly, could you assist with the Spanish? Kimberly Larios? Let me see if Kelly is available. 1 second.
¿Quieres seguir con su pregunta?
Sí, buenas noches. Mi nombre es Reina Mendoza. Mi pregunta es si ahorita podemos hablar acerca de la educación especial o después de un tema que yo quiero hablar.
Hello, so my name is Reina Mendoza. I want to know right now if we can talk about special education or if that is another, or if we can speak on.
I say yes.
Sorry, so the question is
Would it be
about
appropriate?
special education at Canyon Oaks or Hillcrest? Could you just ask to be more specific in the question?
Okay. Su pregunta es en específico para en la escuela de Hillcrest o de dónde?
No, mi pregunta es para usted, intérprete, si puedo hablar ahorita porque dijeron que el público podía hablar. Entonces, mi pregunta es si puedo hablar ahorita, pero es relacionado a la educación especial o tengo que hablar después para un tema que quiero hablar yo.
Sí, usted puede hablar en este momento. Este es el momento para comentario.
Comentario. Ok, entonces puedo hablar. ¿Usted me interpreta?
Sí, claro. Okay. So she would like to discuss special education.
No es especial educación, es algo diferente.
Okay, or it is a different topic. She would like to discuss a different topic. ¿Cuál es el tema que quisiera usted hablar?
Lo que quiero hablar es sobre el tráfico sexual en East Palo Alto.
Okay, she'd like to talk about a different topic. She'd like to talk about sex trafficking in East Palo Alto.
So I would say thank you very much for coming to the meeting and participating. And these are topics that we can certainly take up in a different agenda and at another meeting. And both special education and also sex trafficking in East Palo Alto. That we're excuse me, we're very happy to hear from members of the public. But I think for this particular agenda item, we need to stay focused on the educational inspection reports, and we'd like to take this up. We'd like to take up the topic at another meeting.
And should she contact you?
And also on the probation website, the Juvenile Justice Commission's website is there, and our contact information is there, and we'd love to hear from you.
Bueno, en este momento no se puede porque en la agenda es de enfocarse en educación. Sin embargo, en otra ocasión esto siempre se puede traer. Les encanta escuchar los comentarios de parte de los miembros del público. Se puede contactar con ellos de parte de la justicia juvenil en su sitio web, pero en este momento no se puede hablar sobre ese tema.
Ok, muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Clerk, are there any other members of the public that wanted to comment on the Canyon Oaks educational inspection?
¿Hay algún otro miembro del
1
público?
second. And let me start your Spanish interpretation again. 1 second. No other hands are raised, Mr. Chair, so you can act on that
All
motion.
right, let's move to a vote. All those in favor of adopting the Canyon Oaks Educational Inspection Report as it was provided in the agenda packet, say aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions or any opposed? All right, the motion passes. The report has been adopted. Thank you, commission members. All right, we will move on to section 7 of the agenda. I think I'll just note now that I don't think we're going to get to section 8, the Youth Services Center inspection report. It was ambitious of us to try to squeeze that into tonight's meeting as well. But I think as previously mentioned, but if not, I will announce now that we intend to have a special meeting at this location and also at 5:15 p.m. on December 5th, so a week from today. We will reconvene on Tuesday of next week for a special meeting of the commissions to consider the Youth Services Center inspection report.
And if I could just add, I'd like everyone to go into the Google Drive to see the updated version. We were really rushing trying to get this done before the holiday. And so there's been some changes, some edits and whatnot. So please go in and take a look at what the document looks like.
And also we will, because we're going to have another meeting, we'll need to distribute another agenda packet. So we'll put the updated version.
But it's there now if anyone wants to just start reading now.
Okay, so that's just a note on agenda item 8, which it does not look like we're going to have time to get to, so I just wanted to let everyone know that now. But coming back to section 7, the other business other than inspection reports that we need to complete by the end of the year is the election of officers for 2024. So the first officer election that we need to attend to is the election of the chair. As of our previous meeting, Commissioner Rasmussen was a candidate for chair. And so before we move to act on that agenda item, this is the last call for any other commissioners that are interested in running for chair. You can say so now. All right. Don't see any. So Commissioner Rasmussen is up for election as the chair. I guess Commissioner Swope, can you remind me of the parliamentary procedure on elections? Do I need to make a motion that we vote to elect Commissioner Rasmussen as chair?
Or she can make the motion, or somebody can make the motion.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
That we elect Commissioner Rasmussen for chair of the commission for the 2024 year.
I will second that motion.
Thank you.
Commissioner Rasmussen, would you like to say anything or before we vote, or are there any other commissioners who would like to say anything? You get to go first.
Well, very brief at 7:13. It's a privilege to be able to serve in this role in the upcoming year. It's a full circle moment.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for it.
And would any other commissioners like to say anything before we vote?
The hardest working member of our commission.
I'd also like to say I look forward to the coming year. It's been a blessing to work with you thus far, and I'm excited to see what your vision through your lens, what it's going to bring the commission, as well as the community and the system impacted youth that will be serving through your new leadership. So congratulations.
Thank you.
I also wanted to say, I'm excited for another Chair Rasmussen in San Antonio.
All right, well, we gotta vote first. All commissioners in favor of electing commissioner, sorry, yes, thank you. Do we have public comment on item 7A, the election of a chair?
Thank you. Once again, if you plan to speak on item 7A, the chair position, please raise your hand now. Michelle Iracheta, you have 2 minutes, so please proceed.
Hi there, just want to say congratulations, Johanna, and I just want to say it's sad to see you go, Monroe. I'm looking forward to what you bring, Johanna.
Thank you. I did see another hand raised, but it went down. Just making sure. Chris Rasmussen, do you want to speak? Okay, he didn't raise his hand.
We'll speak later. All right, all in favor of electing Johanna, our chair for 2024, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Congratulations. Moving on to 7B, the election of the vice chair of administration. We did have Commissioner Agarwal interested in being vice chair of administration, but she has since let me know that she's withdrawing from consideration for the role. And I think commissioners know this, but so that the public know, in the past month, Commissioner Hubert Levy has expressed interest in taking on the role of a vice chair of administration. So she is a candidate for the role, and as I did with the chair position, if there are any other commissioners that are interested in being vice chair of administration, last chance to raise your hand. Commissioner Swope, we see you also. No? Okay. Great. So I will make the motion to that we elect Commissioner Hubert Levy, vice chair of administration for the commission again, and for the calendar year 2024. Thank you, Commissioner Nori.
Which Nori?
Commissioner Nori, Amaya
Sorry,
Nori,
okay.
yes, has seconded the motion. Did you want to say anything?
Sure, I just wanted to say that I'm looking forward to supporting our new chair, and that I will come forward to all of you with some new ideas and energy to make sure that we keep up the great work that we started and continue some of the project work that didn't get completed this year, but bring in some fresh energy and make sure that everyone has an opportunity to come forward and take some ownership and leadership and feel involved. I'm a big believer in hearing every voice in the room, so I look forward to helping to support the chair and ensure that we come together as a commission and do more great work and make sure that our chair isn't burdened with all of the work herself too. She is very hardworking, so. And I thank you for this opportunity. It is a little bit of a different position because we now have the support of the county clerk, which we very much appreciate.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So I think we have some room to have additional thoughtfulness and creativeness in terms of making sure that we bring more to the role of administration. So I look forward to working with all of you on that. Thank you for stepping up.
Thank you, Karen.
Did anyone else want to comment? I will say that I worked closely these last couple of years with Karen, as she has been both vice chair of administration the year before this one and vice chair membership this year, and I really admire and appreciate her thoroughness, hard work, and dedication to the commission, and enthusiastically support for being vice chair administration next year. Mr. Clerk, are there any members of the public that want to comment?
Sure. Like the chair said, if you want to comment on item 7B, vice chair administration, please raise your hand now in Zoom. Okay, no hands are raised, so we can take it.
All right, all those in favor of electing Karen Levy, vice chair administration of the commission for 2024, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Congratulations. All right, moving right along, 7C, vice chair membership. I think that we had, oh yes, we did momentarily have more than one commissioner interested in this role, but I think at this point, all but one have withdrawn, and Commissioner newly sworn in, Commissioner Ruchi Mangtani is our current candidate. Last chance, commissioners. Anyone else had second thoughts? Want to take on this role? All right, seeing none.
It's a critical role. It's so important.
It is a critical role. Would you like to make the motion to? Would you like to make the motion for?
I move that Ruchi be our vice chair of membership.
Who wants a second?
I second.
All right, the motion on the floor is to elect Commissioner Mangtani the vice chair of membership. Did you want to say anything?
Well, I'm just really grateful to be here. I'm really new. I feel like I've already learned a lot, and I feel like everybody's super welcoming, and I feel like this is just such a great community you guys have created, and I'm happy to be able to help it thrive, I guess.
Okay. And having served as the chair for the past couple of years, I can say that that continuing to bring in great new commissioners is a super important part of what makes the commission effective and productive and a great community. So it's an important role, and thank you for volunteering to do it. Anyone else?
I'd just like to say thank you to Ruchi for stepping up for this and being brave. You are new, and I undertake to be supportive of you and provide you with some transitional support, and certainly always here to answer any questions and help you out, pitch in wherever you need it.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Clerk, let's call for public comment on 7C.
Okay. Members of the public, if you wish to comment on item 7C, please raise your hand now. Okay. There are 25 hands raised. No, no hands are raised. So that's
A little humor.
I almost fell out of my chair. Commissioners, all in favor of electing Ruchi Mangtani the vice chair of membership for the commission for 2024, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? You are elected.
Yeah.
We have just to take a minute to recognize that we have approved all inspection reports but one, the big one. And we have officers elected for 2024. So we're heading into December in good shape. We have one thing left to do. Like I said, we will defer item 8 to our special meeting a week from today. And so before we adjourn this meeting, we do have other announcements to call for in section 9 of the agenda, where commissioners can let us know about other things that they want to announce. But I wanted to take maybe 5 more minutes just to acknowledge Commissioner Wilson. Since this might be Commissioner Wilson's last meeting, she said something at the last meeting about resigning, and I think that a resignation letter may still be coming now that the business of now that the educational inspection report is has been approved. But if this is indeed your last meeting, I have worked with Melissa for the 4 years that I've been on, 4+ years that I've been on the commission, and truly, like, you have made an amazing impact. I was actually at Juvenile Hall just this past weekend, visiting one of the kids that are in the hall, and I was sitting in the lobby waiting to go in, and I saw the parent guidebook or parent guide books on a rack in the hall, and I thought, Melissa did that, and so did Commissioner Swope, and I know that there were others, and former Commissioner Gustafson, worked hard on that, but it's just one example of the many like tangible impacts that you have made on the lives of kids in the system. Others I'm sure would like to say some things, but between that and Peerpoint operating in Menlo Atherton, the money that was raised for that, I just want to say your spirit and energy and dedication to these kids really is inspiring. So I appreciate it. Anyone else want to have any words they want to add?
I'd like to say, Melissa was one of the first ones that I met when I began my reintegration back into the community after surviving the school to prison pipeline, as well as Susan Swoop and Michelle Gustafson. Since meeting Melissa, you have always been supportive. You have always been someone that I can rely on for assistance. You've been an excellent guide and an excellent role model as a commissioner for me. And it gives me great pleasure to know that, and I'm hoping you're going to continue to work with us on some level, but I want to acknowledge the fact that you always made me feel accepted. You've advocated for me, you fought for me, and I really admire your ability to stand up to adversity during my reintegration process, not only here into the county, but also coming in as a commissioner. And I'll forever hold you dear to me, and you'll be missed. And hopefully you stick around and continue to work with us. And,
I should quit things more often.
I really want to say thank you for always accepting me with open arms from day one. You're going to be missed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we know the work will go on, Melissa, even if it's not officially as a commissioner. Thank you. Yeah.
I also wanted to recognize Melissa because she's one of the first people I met when I joined Peerpoint, and she has really been a mentor for me, for Mateo, for Austin, Angelina, all the people who've gone through that, and you're an inspiration. And I think it really crystallized for me when I sat with you during our lunch with Whitney at the YSC, and you brought the peanut butter jelly sandwiches with that weird like mixed multi-grain bread. But yes, continue to fight the good fight, and you mean a lot to me, and I'm sure to everyone else there.
Yes, I appreciate you. I appreciate how you guide me. You've defined words for me that sometimes I don't understand. You help me navigate tough spaces sometimes, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to work with you. Thank you.
I think everybody here, this is a really special community, and Monroe is a large part of the tone and the relationship that we have with each other. So, yeah, you're all special people.
All right. Thank you, Melissa. And with that,
This is beautiful.
assuming there are no other announcements that commissioners want to make.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes. Oh,
Point of order. I know that you passed on item 8.
yes.
However, we've come up to the end of the hour. Unfortunately, the special meeting we're gonna have next week, we are not able to attend. We have other training responsibilities that we're gonna have to be attending to at that point. And I'll just say, just for the benefit of the group as we close, that we certainly look forward to working through some of the questions inside of the report. I do have to say that I think that there are some factually inaccurate parts to the report. I think there are some areas around staffing and training that are not necessarily reflective of exactly what happens within our organization. And so whether or not it happens next week, we reserve the right to hopefully come to the table to address these points. A lot of the structural things that have been asked for or that have been pointed out in this report are things that we certainly look forward to working with you all collaboratively to address. And our hope is that if nothing else, our comments with regard to things that we take issue with will be documented.
Certainly. And just Chief Keen, just to respond to that, perhaps there's an opportunity before we put together the agenda packet for the special meeting next week to make some edits or changes or input. And also, I think normally as part of our inspection reports, we reserve a section for response, and then we can incorporate that into the report as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think respectfully, I think for me, the only real issues are, like I said, issues around the training piece, issues around some of the staffing comments and suggestions I don't think are factually appropriate for the nature of what the report is supposed to do. But once again, if that needs to be in writing or if it's something we can report out to, certainly we can do that.
Good, thank you.
I'll be attending the meeting on Thursday, Chief. If any of your staff want to meet prior to that or just after that, I'm available to meet.
The Juvenile Justice Coordinating Council.
Yeah.
Respectfully, they can't speak for me. I need to meet with one.
Oh, it's you who wants this? Okay.
Yeah.
Typically, I speak with your staff, so okay, that's fine.
There's just areas that I think I need to speak to directly.
That's fantastic. I mean, I think we want your input and certainly before it goes to publication.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Excuse me. Can we change what day we're going to meet so that we do it at a time that Chief Keen can be with us?
We can look at that. We've as a commission, we've looked at multiple dates. I've been trying to keep it on a Tuesday at 5:15.
Reserve the room, it's just a week away.
We have reserved the room. I think we could probably get the room again on other Tuesday nights.
Let me say this, I don't want to stop what you've done. I mean,
Yeah.
you all have a schedule you want to keep and that you need to keep, and we're going into the holidays, so I want to be respectful of that. So, really at the end of the day, the report is your report, so you're free to say what you want in the report. There's just certain things that I know I would like to speak to. I mean, I think issues around, for example, the training piece, that suggests that we've never had ACEs or trauma-informed training is not accurate. There's a specific reason why we don't have, we don't have it in space, but there's a commentary to that. So, we can go into that in the appropriate time.
Okay, Ms. Holliver has her hand raised. So I want to recognize her.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to mention that Chief Keen, you could do a written comment since you seem to have the report. So you could do, if you wanted, like a written public comment on the report that could be included for the next meeting. Or of course, it can also be agendized at a later meeting to receive your comments too. That also works, but I'm just letting you know.
I appreciate that, Judith. And like I said, I didn't want to stop what was going to happen here. It was just my point to make sure that on the record, I suggested that we won't unfortunately be able to be present, but we certainly have desired input for what was pointed out.
Okay, we'll reach out to get that
Thank you.
input.
Appreciate
All right.
it.
With that, Commissioner Swope, yes.
We are required to submit these reports by the end of the year. So
Yeah.
I do think it's important that we take into account Chief Keen's concerns and hand in a report that does reflect those concerns. So I know I'd be willing to be available at a time that he can be available, and I don't know what the other feelings
So
are.
we will. So I will endeavor to figure out when we can get everyone available, and also we'll work with Commissioner Rasmussen on incorporating the comments. So we still have time. Our goal is next Tuesday, December 5th, but that will be announced in the next couple of days. Commissioners, hang on before you go. I think unless there's any other comment, we can adjourn the meeting.
We do have 2 hands raised by the public.
Okay,
I want to make sure
you can just stay for a couple minutes.
Yeah. Make sure we have a quorum. Luke Namian, you had your hand raised.
Hi,
You want to speak?
Yeah.
Luke Namian, Gnamien. I give you the permission to talk. Did you want to say something? Okay.
He's on. Hi, Luke.
Oh, are you all able to hear me?
Yep.
Okay, can you see me okay?
No,
we can't see you, but we can hear
you. Okay, that's fine. I'm sorry. I don't know if this is the right time, but I just wanted to also take a second to appreciate Melissa and supporting. Also, I'm Luke Namian. I'm the program manager for PurePoint, and I just want to say thank you, Melissa. Of course, people have been shouting your praises, all evening long, but just, the early work you did, in terms of the goal for, early interventions that kept children out of the system. For me, when I first came on, all the information that you provided me and connecting me to all the different resources I needed to really be able to get into the swing of things and get the program going. And
let's have lunch. I'll call you and we'll have lunch.
Okay, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. You have my email, so let's definitely do it. But again, thank you so much. And of course, everybody, thank you for, giving me a few moments to speak.
Thank you, Luke. Luke runs PurePoint in Midland African, so that's who Luke is, and appreciate it. Melissa. All right,
Thank you.
Were there any other hands?
Yes, one other hand raised, Jennifer Blanco. You please proceed.
Jennifer?
Hello, good evening. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Good evening. This is Jennifer Blanco. I'm a school board member for the San Bruno Park School District, and I am also one of the Area 3 reps for the San Mateo County School Board Association. And I just wanted to really quickly mention, thank you, commissioners, for all that you do on behalf of our incarcerated youth, and welcome to the new commission, and congratulations to Miss Melissa. This is actually a request for information. I did notice that Chief Keene had already left the room. However, in requesting information is that we, in speaking in regards to we San Mateo County School Board Association, we have an event coming up, and I am just doing my early research and requesting some information. The event I'm referencing is going to be inviting trustees throughout our county and superintendents and other educators, where this information that I am requesting is not only going to be beneficial, but very useful throughout our work as school board members. And the information that I am requesting is, regards to this event that's coming up, I am interested to find out and share this information with my colleagues across the county, is with the kids, with our students who are incarcerated, I'd like to know which school districts they're from. So is this information that I can get from this commission, or is this something I can reach out to Chief King? Thank you very much. Any direction is very appreciated.
Jennifer, I would reach out to Sarah Notch at San Mateo County Office of Education. And
okay.
Just do that, make a simple request to provide the school districts for the current, all students enrolled on and pick a day. So
Okay,
say,
perfect. I do know who Sarah Notch is. She
Yeah.
was our former, from my school district, she was our former director of special ed. Perfect.
yeah,
That's a
great.
name I'm very familiar with. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, with that, the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Mo.
Commissioners.
The time is now 7:40 PM and the meeting is adjourned.
One more, huh? Next week.
One more next week. We did have items